Hello, everyone. My name is Ms. Jocelyn Marquez, and I work closely with the education program at Conservation Nation. I am so happy to be able to introduce our amazing 2025 Conservationist Grantee, Mr. Fredrick Kilonzo. Mr. Kilonzo is the founder of NatureHub Collective Community Organization, dedicated to community-based conservation and environmental justice in Kenya. He is joining us today to talk about his amazing conservation work. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Fredrick Kilonzo.
Hi everyone, my name is Fredrick Kioko Kilonzo and I'm so excited to be with you today. I'm 24 years old, calling from Kenya's beautiful coast. I'm a conservationist, but there's so much more to who I am. I'm from the Maasai community in Kajiado County. My grandmother is a master beadwork artisan who taught me that our traditional patterns actually encode environmental knowledge about seasons, water sources, and animal migrations. Growing up, I watched our springs disappear. That's what pushed me into conservation. Outside work, I love hiking Kenya's beautiful ecosystems and learning traditional songs from elders. And honestly, I'm terrible at beekeeping. Today, I'm going to show you how the incredible Kidongo Women's Group is transforming Kenya's coast through mangrove restoration. Let's dive in. Look at this map. Kenya has about 60,000 hectares of mangroves along our Indian Ocean coast. But here is the problem. We have lost 18% since 1990. That's almost 1/5 gone. Why does this matter? Mangroves are incredible guardians of the coast. They are nurseries for over 1,000 sea creatures, that is baby fish, crabs, shrimps, all grow up here. They store 4 times more carbon than regular terrestrial forests, and they protect our coastline from storms and erosion like a natural wall. But if mangroves are so valuable, why are we losing them? Let's look at the data. But before that, I have a question for you students. Why do you think mangroves are often called the guardians of the coast? I'll repeat the question. Why do you think mangroves are often called the guardians of the coast? This chart shows the threats to mangroves. Number 1, charcoal production at 40%. In Mtopa Creek, families were cutting mangroves to make charcoal because they needed money to survive. Imagine if the only way your family could earn income was by destroying the forest that feeds you. That's the impossible choice these communities faced. Population pressure is second. Climate change third. I don't know if you can notice something. Most threats connect to poverty and survival. So we can't just tell people to stop cutting trees. We have to give them a better way to earn money. That's where our solution comes in. Meet the Kidongo Women's Group. 15 incredible women changing everything. Mama Grace once told me, when women lead conservation, both people and nature thrive. She's absolutely right. We built community nurseries where women grow seedlings. We taught them beekeeping for mangrove gold honey income. Then we plant the seedlings together. The first planting season taught us fast. Mangrove mud does not forgive. That's me stuck knee deep. 3 women had to pull me out. They laughed and said, now you are really a conservationist. Field work isn't glamorous, but it is worth it. Here is how it works. Healthy mangroves produce flowers. Bees make honey from those flowers. Women earn $15 per day from honey sales. And because they are making money, they protect mangroves instead of cutting them for charcoal production. Everyone wins, people and nature. Let's talk about how economics drives this. This is where economics meets conservation. We gave 15 women beehives and training. Look at the income change. $3 per day to $15 per day. That's 5 times more. With $3 a day, you barely feed your family. With $15, you send kids to school, buy medicine, save for future. These transform lives, not just trees. The key principle: when people earn more money protecting nature than destroying it, conservation becomes everyone's priority. So what results have we seen? I have a question for the students. How does linking income to conservation change community attitude towards nature? I'm going to repeat. How does linking income to conservation change community attitudes towards nature. Let's look at the data. We have planted 8,000 seedlings so far, and that is 40% of our 20,000 seedlings goal. But here is the exciting part. Our survival rate is 97% compared to just 60% with traditional methods. And why is this? We use integrated fish ponds that provide nutrients and protection. We established community managed nurseries and got women and youth actively involved. This is their forest, their income, their future. I have a question for the students, and why is community ownership important for long-term restoration success? I'm going to repeat the question. Why is community ownership important for long-term restoration success? Ecologically, 85 to 90% survival rate is what we were able to achieve in results. Improving canopy cover every month. Economically, 15 women empowered, income from $3 to $15 daily. And here is the ripple effect. Families don't need to cut trees for charcoal anymore because they have better income. Conservation works when it solves human problems and environmental problems together. Our 8,000 trees in Proper Creek so far will absorb 400 tons of carbon over 10 years, and that is like taking 87 cars off the road for a year. Fish species will increase by 15% in just 18 months. Bird diversity will go up by 25%. And why is this? Mangroves and nurseries, everything needs them to survive. Fishermen will be catching more fish now than 2 years ago. More fish means more food and income for families. I have another question for the students. Which of these impacts do you think benefit local communities the most, and why? Which of these impacts do you think benefits local communities the most, and why? Now, I want to show you what this work actually looks like in the field. Let's watch this field video we have prepared.
Proper Creek in Kenya. For years, poverty forced families here to cut mangroves for charcoal. 18% of Kenya's mangroves have disappeared since 1990, but the Kidongo Women's Group decided to change that. With support from Conservation Nation's 2025 Conservationist Grant, we built a community nursery. Women collect mangrove propagules, prepare them in bags, and care for them for 3 to 4 months. We've grown 8,000 seedlings so far, working toward our 20,000 tree goal. Then comes the hard part, planting in the mud floods. And yes, we get stuck in the mud. Through our integrated approach funded by Conservation Nations, combining fish ponds and proper spacing, we've achieved 85% to 90% survival rates. I'll never forget my first planting day. I sank knee-deep in the mud and needed 3 women to put me out. The Kidongo women laughed and said, "Now you are really a mangrove conservationist." Conservation Nations grants enable a mangrove gold beekeeping enterprise. We purchased 15 beehives and trained women in sustainable honey production. Women's income jumped from $3 to $15 per day. This is the CN Grant's impact, transforming conservation into sustainable livelihoods. Thanks to Conservation Nations, 8,000 seedlings are thriving. That's 40% of over 20,000 tree goal achieved. Bird species increased 25%. Fish population rebounded. Carbon is being stored. Most importantly, 51 women are leading change. Conservation Nations believe in community-led solution, and this is what is possible.
Conservation looks glamorous in documentaries, but reality, it's muddy, hot, and things rarely go as planned. Mangrove restoration taught me you can plan everything perfectly and still get rained on. This was supposed to be our perfect planting day. Then a storm hit. Fieldwork isn't always clean, but it's always worth it. Every seedling represents hope for the ecosystem, for the community, for the future. These moments working with community members in mud and rain, this is where real change happens. You are the generation that can restore our planet. You don't need to wait. You don't need permission. You don't need to be perfect. The Kidongo women didn't have environmental science degrees. They had determination, creativity, and commitment. That made the difference. Whether you are in Kenya or Kansas, the principles are the same. Listen to your community, find solutions that help both people and nature. Start small, but start now. When communities lead, nature thrives. You can be that leader in your community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fredrick, for that lovely presentation. We are so excited to see what you have done in Mtwapa Creek and also all the restoration you have accomplished with the Kidongo community of women. We hope that you continue to restore and build the fish and bird biodiversity in Mtwapa Creek. And we're so excited to see what's next. So thank you so much for that presentation, Fredrick. Now we'll be taking questions from the students.
All right, I got one question. If you never came to Washington D.C., would you ever come to Washington D.C.?
Okay, so the question is, if you've never been to Washington, D.C., would you ever come to Washington, D.C.?
Yes. Very interested in coming to Washington, D.C. I've never been into Washington, D.C. However, I've been into Kansas for last year, where we had attended a conference by the American Association of Zoos and Veterans. Yeah. So I'd really be interested in coming to Washington, D.C. and getting to meet some of the students.
Yes, that would be exciting. Thank you, Fredrick. Another question? Yes.
Hello, Fredrick. I want to ask, what got you into restoring mangrove forests?
So Fredrick, the student asked, what got you into restoring mangrove forests?
That's a great question. I didn't start planning our planning to work with mangroves at all. I'm actually from the Maasai community inland, not the coast. So I grew up watching savannas and grasslands, not oceans and mangroves. But when I was in the university, I took a field trip to Kenya's coast and I saw something that broke my heart. There were entire areas where mangroves used to stand. You could see the stumps, but they'd all been cut down for charcoal. And the fishermen told me they were catching fewer and fewer fish every year. But here is what really got me. I met women in Mtwapa Creek who said, we know cutting mangroves is destroying our environment, but we have no other way to feed our children. That hit me hard. These weren't bad people. They were loving mothers making impossible choices. So I realized that telling people to stop cutting trees without giving them an alternative was useless. That's when I thought, what if we could flip it? What if protecting mangroves would actually make them more money than cutting them down? That's where the beekeeping idea came from. Healthy mangroves produce flowers, bees make honey from those flowers. Women sell the honey, and suddenly they are earning 5 times more protecting the forest that destroying it. So yeah, that's how I got into mangrove restoration. And yeah, it wasn't love for mangroves at first. It was wanting to solve that impossible choice women were facing. So that's how I got into mangrove restoration.
Thank you, Fredrick. We'll probably take another question.
I was gonna ask, are there any other trees you like to restore?
So the question is, are there any other trees you've gotten to restore?
Yes, so we do restore terrestrial forests in the Taita Hills ecosystem, that is indigenous and native seedlings. We also do programs whereby we plant fruit trees in schools across Kenya. Yeah, so it's not basically mangroves, but other indigenous seedlings and fruit trees in schools and also the communities. We also into wildlife conservation, and most of it involves habitat restoration. So we have also been doing a lot of indigenous tree seedlings planting. Yeah.
Thank you, Fredrick. Should we take one more question?
How many mangrove seedlings do you plant in a day?
So the question is, how many mangrove saplings or seedlings do you plant in one day?
So we always do like 2,000 to 3,000 a day, depending on the tidal patterns. Yeah, because sometimes the water fills up quickly. So yeah, so probably 2,000 to 3,000 mangroves a day.
That is a very large amount. So congratulations, Fredrick, on all those seedlings that you're able to plant in a single day, 2,000 to 3,000. Now we'll be moving on to Kahoot. So everybody, please join me in giving Fredrick a warm applause. We are so honored that Fredrick was able to give us his time today and really talk about his mangrove restoration project and all the amazing work he is doing with the Kidongo community in Kenya. Fredrick, would you like to have some closing remarks for the students?
Yeah. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. When I was your age, that is 11, 12, 13 years old, I never imagined I'd be standing knee deep in mangrove mud on Kenya's coast, working with incredible women to restore an entire ecosystem. I thought conservation was something that happened in documentaries, done by people with fancy degrees and expensive equipment. But here is what I learned. The biggest changes start with the smallest actions. The Kidongo women didn't wait for permissions. They didn't wait to be perfect. They just started. One seedling, one beehive, one day in the mud. You don't need to wait either. Maybe you start a recycling program at your school. Maybe you plant native flowers in your neighborhood. Maybe you organize a creek cleanup. Maybe you just ask questions and learn about the ecosystems around you. Whatever you choose, remember this. Conservation isn't about saving nature from people. It's about people and nature thriving together. The Kidongo women taught me that. My grandmother taught me that. And now I'm teaching you. You are the generation that will restore our planet. Not because you have to, but because you can. Because you care, because you are ready. When communities lead, nature thrives. So go and lead. Thank you for having me today. It's been an honor. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Fredrick, for all the amazing work you are doing. And what an inspiration from the Kidongo community. We hope that students feel inspired by the work that we've seen today. And I want to thank everyone for joining us on this Academy Live session. And we hope you'll join us on the next session. Thank you so much again, everybody.